I have a vague memory of this one series. I'm a bit fuzzy on the details, but it was a spooky kids show with some kind of supernatural element to it. I believe there was a creepy Slender Man type creature. I saw an ad for it around Halloween and added it to my watch list, and completely forgot about it until the new Goosebumps show came out. I searched in my favorites, but nothing. It wasn't on this site or any others. I know it existed, but I just can't find it. The show Just Beyond premiered on Disney Plus in October of 2021 and was removed from the service in May of 2023. It had no physical release or digital sale, so it technically became lost media with its removal from streaming. The show was a teenage horror anthology series based on the work of R.L. Stine, the author of Goosebumps. It only had one season with 8 episodes. For the sake of preservation, I will guide us through each episode of this currently inaccessible show. Veronica, an exemplary student, returns from her summer break with a rebellious attitude.
One person can make a difference.
Her newfound perspective leads her to become a disruptive activist at school. Veronica's parents, concerned and confused by their daughter's changed behavior, seek outside help. They find Miss Genevieve's School for Difficult Girls, a boarding school designed to rehabilitate troubled teens, hoping this program will restore their daughter to the happy girl they once knew. Upon arriving at the school, they are greeted by a large Gothic building on a desaturated campus. Miss Genevieve promptly leads them on a tour, explaining their strict but necessary policies, including a meticulous dress code that requires a uniform haircut for all students. Heather, Veronica's new roommate, introduces herself to Veronica's parents.
How do you do, Mr. and Mrs. Vanderhall?
Her positive attitude and good manners charms them, but not Veronica, who gets called out for chewing gum.
We don't permit chewing gum.
After being reprimanded by Miss Genevieve, Veronica slowly removes the gum from her mouth and sticks it to a lamppost. This act of defiance shocks her parents, but in the distance, a mysterious student watches with interest. In the privacy of their sleeping quarters, Veronica mocks the school and Miss Genevieve in an attempt to connect with Heather, believing that she would revert to her normal behavior. However, Heather's unsettling, calm, and positive demeanor persists, even when no one else is around. While unpacking, Veronica takes out a speaker to play music. But once the song begins, Heather aggressively slams her hand on the power button. With a stern look, she reminds Veronica that music is forbidden. Early the next morning, Heather wakes Veronica to start her first day. Her roommate is ready before the alarm goes off, while Veronica struggles to get out of bed. At breakfast, Veronica interacts with another student who responds with the same preppy demeanor as Heather, noticing that all the girls at the school share the same unnatural behavior. While attending her first class, Veronica interrupts the teacher by questioning the lesson. The room erupts in disbelief, but the teacher assures his students that she will yet learn the rules and adequately follow them once her hair is properly done. Called into the principal's office, Veronica gets her measurements taken by a strange man in a lab coat named Mr. Welsh, the school's hairstylist. The man informs Miss Genevieve that his soonest appointment is next week. Unsatisfied, the principal informs Mr. Welsh that this case took precedence, leaving Veronica concerned about what will truly happen in this appointment. In the dead of night, Veronica sneaks out of her dorm room, attempting to escape from the school. As she makes her way outside the building, she is intercepted by Claire, the mysterious student, who warns her of the patrol officer ahead. Laying low in Claire's room, Claire tells Veronica about the escaped attempts of other students and emphasizes the importance of leaving before the hairdresser's appointment. In the center of the room, a young student is strapped to a chair with a special mechanism placed over her head. Miss Genevieve approaches the student, reprimanding her for disobedient behavior. Before the student can respond, Mr. Welsh activates the machine, engulfing her head in a thick layer of smoke. Once evaporated, the girl's appearance and behavior have completely changed, matching those of every other girl here. Claire explains that, due to a skating accident, she has a metal plate implanted in her skull, which might have protected her from being brainwashed. As they are leaving, Veronica accidentally stumbles over some debris, alerting Mr. Welsh and Miss Genevieve to their presence. Hiding in the pipelines, Claire reveals to Veronica everything she has discovered about the school. She explains that the parents are unaware of Miss Genevieve's twisted methods, but they also do not question their children's strange behavior, remaining willfully ignorant as long as their little girls act in an expected and controlled manner. Despite having a perfect escape plan, Claire cannot leave. She was brought to the school with her sister, who unfortunately had her mind wiped, and now doesn't even recognize her anymore.
All of a sudden, she wasn't my sister anymore.
With the guards on high alert, the girls decide to sneak back into their rooms before they are found out. The next morning, as Veronica is pondering all that she learned about this place, Miss Genevieve reprimands her for whistling,
Whistling is one of our no-nos.
reminding her that music is forbidden. Unamused by Veronica's constant disobedience, Miss Genevieve tells her about the amount of young rebels she has crushed into submission, and how excited she is for Veronica's hair appointment. Feeling threatened, Veronica rushes to Claire's room. They needed to leave before nightfall. As she enters the room, she feels something is wrong. Claire, with her perfect hair and wide smile, does not recognize Veronica and is now happy to be at school. As the lunch bell rang, Heather entered the bedroom to collect Veronica, who was lying in bed waiting out the hours until it was finally time to wipe her personality clean. Seeing her roommate's joyful demeanor, Veronica calmly asks Heather, "How does it feel?" She explains being overwhelmed by all the problems of the world, the anger and anguish it gives her, asking if Heather prefers this life without worry or the one before. Unintentionally, these questions rattle Heather, her smile diminishing as she tries to answer Veronica. Before leaving for her hairdresser appointment, Veronica gives Heather her music player, knowing that she won't be able to use it ever again. As Veronica hands her the speaker, Heather, trembling, approaches the play button, reluctantly trying to press it. When the music blasts through the speakers, Heather drops to the ground, screaming, covering her ears. Once the music stops, Heather returns to normal with a completely new attitude, absolutely revolted by her outfit and hideous haircut.
Why am I wearing pink slippers? I hate pink!
Veronica, now meeting the real Heather, comes up with a plan to free all the students from this oppressive regime. Entering the headmistress's office, Veronica antagonizes Miss Genevieve, showing her a complete lack of respect. Infuriated, Miss Genevieve grabs her by the arm and drags her to the hair appointment.
How long have you been using your little brain fog, Robbie?
Veronica continues to annoy Miss Genevieve to the point that she stops in the middle of the campus to proclaim her disdain for kids nowadays and how much better off they are after her treatment. As Veronica is being berated by Miss Genevieve, she looks up and raises her hand in a thumbs up. Confused, Miss Genevieve turns to understand what is happening and sees Heather standing by the window inside her office, holding a music player and a microphone. Through the entire campus, music begins to play over the PA system, transforming every girl back to their normal self. Miss Genevieve tries to control the situation, but the girls rush out into the campus, leaving the school together. The visual identity of the brainwashed girls was interesting, but it could have been more unsettling. You get used to the formal, preppy look way too quickly, which causes the tension and discomfort to fade early on. It's only when the camera zooms in on one of their faces that you remember how unhinged they actually look. The headmistress's convergence method doesn't make much sense, especially considering that music will completely undo the process. The second the girls are being driven home, one song on the radio will snap them back to their rebellious selves, essentially ruining the school's reputation right away. The story is compelling, but the ending feels a bit abrupt. I would have liked to see the reunion with the parents, where the girl could confront them with all the wisdom and confidence she gained from her journey. On a completely unrelated note, I actually thought the man brainwashing the girls was Tom Hardy. But it turns out it was just a bald guy with a big mustache. Jack and Ronald. Childhood friends with a lot in common. Extensive love for video games, deep interest in the paranormal, and a growing embarrassment over their parents.
Are all parents this cringy?
In their small suburban town, the boys spend most of their time at a curiosity shop, discussing Bigfoot, government conspiracies, and aliens with the owner.
So Bigfoot has a podcast?
Convinced that nothing exciting ever happens around here. While attending a barbecue party, the boys watch their parents interact, laughing at their cringeworthy one-liners and dad jokes. They could not help but feel secondhand embarrassment. Bonnie, Jack's mother, reminds the boys about the upcoming family trip and suggests how fun it would be to get everybody matching pajamas. These thoughts make them less excited about the vacation, and they excuse themselves from the party to avoid enduring another awkward moment with their families. Back in his room, Jack lies in bed listening to music when his father Dale comes in for a talk. He reminisces about the old times they had together and the fun moments they shared. Jack is happy to chat with his dad, but is visibly confused about where this conversation's going. When Dale sits down next to his son,
I know you're not a little kid anymore.
He adopts a more serious tone, telling Jack that his body is about to change in strange ways. He adds that if Jack has any questions or needs someone to talk to, he will always be there for him.
We got the same parts, right?
Visibly uncomfortable, Jack declines and tries to quickly end the conversation, giving his dad an awkward half hug, half handshake. Understanding, Dale gets up to leave, but before exiting, he tells his son, "I love you." Jack, still feeling uncomfortable, doesn't say it back. Instead, he puts his headphones back on and resumes what he was doing. Later that day, Ronald is telling Jack about his dad's attempt to give him the talk, leaving him so embarrassed and nervous that he broke out in a rash, showing a red mark on his arm. Jack, confused, pulls up his sleeve, showing a similar mark on his arm. The boys are interrupted by Jack's parents, heading to Ronald's house to have a game night with his parents. Once they leave, Jack and Ronald make preparations for their game night, with popcorn, sweets, and their favorite video game. However, they soon realize that Ronald forgot his headset at home, where all their parents are gathered. Without wanting to be noticed, the boys try sneaking in through the back to avoid any kind of interaction. As they approach the rear entrance, through the window, they see robed figures surrounding a glowing orb as all of the living room furniture floats around. At a better glance, they finally notice that these strange people were their parents. Scared and confused about what they saw, the boys fled. Unsure of what to do and not wanting to believe what just happened, they decide to investigate the matter further by snooping through their parents' rooms. Looking inside a secret jacket compartment, Jack finds a glowing rock in his parents' closet. As he is about to leave, he is stopped by his father, wondering what he's doing. Jack makes up an excuse and quickly leaves the room with the stone hidden in his pocket, as his father glares at him with suspicion. Back at the curiosity shop, we see the owner analyzing the stone, determining it to be alien, explaining to them that their parents are unfortunately gone, being replaced with alien doppelgangers that intend to take the boys as well once their bodies have fully matured. Noticing their skin rashes, he warns the boys that the process has already started, giving them headgears as protection and a strange jar as a DNA test to determine if they are indeed extraterrestrials. The boys secretly gather locks of their parents' hair, being careful not to raise any suspicion. As they are mixing the DNA samples in the jar, they notice each other's arms, and their rashes are growing faster with each day.
Probably just because you keep scratching it, just leave it alone.
The DNA jar begins to glow, frightening the boys. Still unwilling to believe what is happening, they decide to spy on their parents on game night to see what is going on. From the bushes, the boys watch their parents chanting around a glowing orb. However, instead of floating furniture, tentacles appear where their arms should be, leaving the boys with the devastating confirmation that their parents are now aliens. As the morning comes, Jack's father tells him to get ready, that it's time to go. Amongst all of the confusion and investigation, the boys forgot about the planned family vacation to an isolated lake house. Preparing for the worst, they buckle in their helmets and do their best to stay hidden in their room. When night falls, Jack's mother enters the room, inviting the boys to join them in game night, but ordering them to remove their hats.
You're a couple of mature specimens now.
Fearful about what's in store, the boys realize they have no way out, playing along to not raise any suspicion. In the living room, the parents argue over what game they should play, as the boys sit in agony, knowing that at any moment this facade will be dropped and the aliens will show their true intentions. Unable to focus on the game, Jack and Ronald scan the room, searching for a way out. As they look back, Ronald's father leaves the table, picking up a wood-cutting axe. Noticing the car keys laying out in the open, the boys run outside to the car. Being both in their early teens and without a license, they struggle to operate the vehicle, blasting the car in reverse through the cabin's wall. As their parents try to calm the boys down to understand what is happening, Jack reveals that they saw them and they know what they are: aliens that stole the bodies of their parents. Realizing that the boys are ready, their parents decide to tell them the truth. They are indeed aliens. They are all aliens, explaining that the rash on their arms are a sign that they are ready.
It's your body's way of letting us know that it's time.
As the parents expose their tentacles, objects around the room levitate, and the boys' arms begin to glow, revealing themselves to be tentacles. They all leave the cabin to look at the sky, and the boys are shown where their home planet lies amongst the stars. They jump into the car, which transforms into a spaceship. As they look down over the city, they see the shopkeeper waving goodbye with a tentacle arm of his own. I found the parents to be very charming and fun, which normally would be a positive thing, but not when the plot wants us to be suspicious of them. At no point did I feel like the parents wanted to harm their children, which made the cabin's suspenseful moments fall flat. Once I realized that the shop owner was also an alien, I was left absolutely confused. Why did he scare the teens into distrusting their parents? Was he just a goofy alien uncle playing a prank for his own amusement? It really doesn't add up. I need to address something that nobody will care about, but here it is. The first phrase spoken in this episode has a completely misspoken word, and they just left it in. The camera wasn't even focused on them at the time, so they could have easily used the audio from a different take, but they chose to leave it in. And it really irks me every time I hear it. And also, they play O-Town Road and sing along with it twice in this episode. Not sure what to say about that, I just found it odd and it makes this episode feel dated. Fiona, a teenage girl, is having lunch in her school's cafeteria. Visibly uncomfortable with her friend's conversation about the inappropriate portrayal of witches in movies. Not wanting to draw attention to her magical heritage, she tries to change the subject. However, her friends fail to notice and continue to ask her questions about being a witch. As they head back to class, Fiona spots her high school crush, Emilio, down the hall. She smiles at him, but is too shy to approach.
Just ask him to the dance.
Noticing this, her classmate Madison angrily confronts her, declaring that Emilio has already asked her to prom and accuses Fiona of being delusional to think that he would ever be interested in dating a witch.
Nice hairy ward, by the way.
Embarrassed and enraged, Fiona rushes to the bathroom, where she frantically reapplies her makeup, doing her best to conceal her witch-like facial features. Not wanting to face any of the other students, she spends the rest of her lunch break hiding in a bathroom stall, eating her traditional witch food, a spider sandwich. In the classroom, Fiona continues to feel bothered, as her history teacher, fascinated by witch culture, cannot stop emphasizing how remarkable it is to have an actual witch attending the school. He fails to realize that his curiosity and excitement about her life and family has caused her to feel singled out from the other students. At the end of the school day, as Fiona gets ready to leave, she finds Emilio waiting outside. They start chatting and awkwardly flirting, with Emilio visibly nervous as he tries to build up the courage to say something.
So what's up?
Suddenly, a black cat approaches Fiona, demanding her attention and speaking to her telepathically. Annoyed by the interruption, she snaps her fingers, making the creature vanish. Turning her focus back to Emilio,
You go to the homecoming dance with me.
it becomes clear that he's trying to invite her to prom. Confused, she asks about Madison,
I thought you were going with Madison.
but Emilio looks puzzled and clarifies that he has no interest in her. Overcome with excitement, Fiona begins to float into the air, only to crash back down when he offers to pick her up for the event, horrified at the thought of him meeting her family. During dinner, Fiona tells her parents about being invited to prom and asks if they could try to appear less like witches when her date arrives.
What did I just say?
They express concern but ultimately agree, promising to appear as a normal, non-magical family. Suddenly, the house begins to tremble as a tornado bursts through the living room, carrying her cousin Luna, who makes a dramatic entrance.
Long time, cousin.
The cousins excitedly embrace, thrilled to be reunited. But Fiona's joy quickly fades when Luna announces that she'll be attending the same school, starting tomorrow. Later that night, as the girls reminisce about childhood memories, Luna excitedly shares her anticipation for tomorrow. Fiona, however, tries to warn her about attending a human school and how different it is from a magical one. Luna, with her overconfident personality, dismisses these concerns, leaving Fiona to dread the rest of the school year. In the morning, as they get ready for school, the girls begin to clash, criticizing each other's outfits.
Don't do that.
Fiona thinks Luna looks too flashy, while Luna thinks Fiona looks too boring. When it's time to leave, Luna decides to travel by broom, while Fiona, not wanting to draw attention to herself, chooses to walk. Taking significantly longer than her cousin, Fiona arrives at school to find her friends chatting with Luna, who is showing off some simple magic tricks.
Love your hat.
Fiona is visibly upset by Luna's public display of witchcraft, but her friends are enchanted by Luna, thrilled to finally meet somebody from Fiona's family. As they walk through the halls, Madison passes by and makes rude remarks about them. Luna brushes it off and suddenly remembers to give Fiona her wand, concerned that she forgot to bring it. In disbelief, Fiona quickly tries to hide it, explaining to Luna that wands are too dangerous and have no place in a human school. She hurriedly stores it in her locker and walks off, pretending nothing happened. However, in her rush, she fails to lock the locker properly, giving Madison the perfect opportunity to steal Fiona's wand. Throughout the school day, Luna repeatedly uses her magical abilities to impress the other students, much to Fiona's dismay. Restlessly, Fiona scrambles to undo her cousin's spells in a desperate attempt to keep a low profile. Between classes, tired and frustrated, Fiona overhears Madison mocking her and her cousin again, expressing disdain for witches. Luna, determined to defend her cousin, confronts Madison and threatens her with a wand.
Stop.
Fiona quickly intervenes, furious with Luna for continuing to show off their magical side despite her warnings. She scolds Luna, upset that her actions are making them stand out as witches in a human school. Later that day, as Fiona gets ready for prom, Luna quietly enters the room and compliments her outfit.
You look very pink.
Both girls feel embarrassed about their earlier behavior, wanting to apologize but unsure what to say. The tension breaks with the sound of the doorbell. Knowing it must be Emilio, Luna wishes her cousin a lovely evening. Fiona thanks her and heads downstairs to greet her date. Emilio is speechless when he sees Fiona, and she smiles, thrilled to be going on a date with the boy of her dreams. Not wanting this perfect moment to be ruined, she rushes out with him before her parents can say anything to embarrass her. At prom, students line up at the photo booth with their dates, but Emilio shows no interest, reluctant to take any pictures. Fiona, confused, questions him, worried she might be the reason for his hesitation. Emilio quickly reassures her that he's thrilled to be there with her and instead invites her to dance. From a distance, Madison watches as Fiona Emilio begins to slow dance. Fueled by jealousy, she searches her phone for a wicked spell to cast with Fiona's wand. Moments later, a storm of insects rains down on the students, plunging the auditorium into chaos. In a panic, Fiona's friends rush to find her, demanding to know if she or Luna were responsible.
No, she's not even here. Is it you?
Hurt by the accusation, Fiona runs out of the auditorium, believing she was being blamed. Wanting to apologize, Luna shows up at prom and finds Fiona crying outside the dance hall. Fiona, surprised but relieved, welcomes her cousin's presence as Luna sits beside her. The two reconcile as Fiona opens up about her struggles at school, expressing her frustrations that people only see her as a witch and nothing more. Finally understanding, Luna reassures her cousin,
It's not easy being one of a kind.
calling her brave, reminding her that being different is something to be proud of. Inspired by Luna's words, Fiona decides to embrace her inner witch, revealing her true appearance as she confidently re-enters the party. Concerned for Fiona, Emilio rushes to her. The moment he sees her new look, he is speechless, completely captivated by her beauty. Her friends arrive shortly after, visibly remorseful for having insinuated that Fiona or Luna were to blame for the chaos. Before they can finish apologizing, Madison interrupts loudly, accusing Fiona of ruining prom and declaring that only a witch could cast such a terrible spell. Fed up with the slander, Fiona decides to confront Madison. However, instead of threatening her, she apologizes for the time she accidentally conjured bugs onto her, explaining it was a genuine mistake. With a flick of her wrist, she reclaims the wand from Madison, revealing to everyone who truly cast the spell. With a wave of her wand, Fiona clears the room of insects and transforms the ceiling into a breathtaking projection of the night sky, casting a magical atmosphere over the party. Humiliated, Madison runs off, leaving Emilio and Fiona to finally finish their slow dance beneath the sparkling stars. After a magical night of partying, Emilio and Fiona prepare to head home. Embracing her true form, Fiona expresses her gratitude to Emilio for accepting her as she is, making her feel less alone.
I don't feel alone anymore.
Emilio smiles warmly and tells her she was never alone, revealing a pair of fangs. The two share a kiss underneath the moonlight before soaring off together on a broomstick. It took me an extremely long time to grasp the premise of this episode, because they didn't immediately establish that this is an alternate universe where witches and humans coexist. The abundance of magical elements consistently happening pulled my attention away from the main plot, as I tried to piece together what it means to be a witch in a human school. I believe they were trying to create an allegory for having dual nationalities, struggling with the mixture of cultures, trying to hide part of yourself to fit in. However, the concept of being a witch, with all the lore and power that comes with it, doesn't work as a metaphor for a nationality. she's from a completely different universe, which makes her school dilemma feel comparatively trivial and unrelatable. When the cousin shows up using magic freely and without restrictions, I expected the school to reprimand them. When it didn't happen, I was once again left confused about the human and witch dynamic. What really bothered me was at prom. After something magical happens, the protagonist gets offended when asked if it was her. This reaction feels inconsistent, considering she spent the past few days with her cousin openly using magic around the school. Watching this episode for the first time was messy and hard to follow, but it's also filled with quirky magical moments that makes it somewhat enjoyable despite the confusion. On a dark, rainy night, a girl sits watching television with her cat as the thunderstorm intensifies. She glances out into the emptiness of the night, only to be startled by a sudden flash of lightning. Jumping back in fright, she feels an ominous presence behind her. Turning around, she comes face to face with a tall, pale creature looming over her, her screams piercing the air in terror. A young girl wakes up from a nightmare to the sound of creaking. Her pitch-black room reveals nothing out of the ordinary. She turns on the lamp and notices her closet door slightly ajar. Uneasy, she decides to leave the lamp on as she tries to fall back asleep. At breakfast, we meet Olivia, her mother, and her brother, who have just moved back into her mother's childhood home, following the divorce. Olivia tries to put on a brave face, but the strain becomes too much. She retreats to the bathroom, where she quietly battles a panic attack, away from her family's eyes. As Olivia takes out the trash, she meets the neighbor boy, Graham, who casually invites himself over. He remarks on how eerie her house looks and feels. Hesitant at first, Olivia admits that
I've been seeing and hearing weird things since we moved in.
Graham, intrigued, tells her she might be dealing with a poltergeist. Olivia wakes up from another nightmare, disturbed by the thunderstorm raging outside. She walks downstairs to the kitchen, trying to distract herself. The creaky wooden floors beneath her feet puts her on edge, making her feel like something is lurking behind her. To calm her nerves, she flicks the hallway light on and off, attempting to prove there's nothing hiding in the dark. In a flash, a creature wearing a mask and suit appears, only to vanish just as quickly, knocking Olivia back in terror. On her way to school, Olivia tells Graham about what happened the night before. He listens, intrigued but concerned.
There's nothing more dangerous than a maniac's taste.
As they approach the school, Olivia pauses, nervous about starting her social life over. Sensing her hesitation, Graham steps in to help by introducing her to the cheerleaders, suggesting she try out for the squad.
Olivia is trying out with the squad.
While chatting with some cheerleaders, Olivia gets invited to a birthday party at a roller coaster park.
They have the most insane roller coaster.
As they describe the intensity of the rides, she notices something in the distance. The sound of music drowns out everything else, amplifying the unease creeping up on her. The girls call her attention, asking if she's all right.
It's fine. It's no biggie.
Olivia forces a smile and brushes it off. In the library, Olivia and Graham research the type of being that might be haunting her. When Graham steps away to take a call, Olivia is left alone as a familiar tune begins to play. Searching for the source, she scours the bookshelves, which unexpectedly leads her down the stairs into the boiler room. With the lights flickering and the pipes leaking under pressure, the air grows thick with tension. Spotting something in the distance, Olivia begins to run, darting deeper into the labyrinth of the building. Close behind her, the tall, pale man follows, his slow, deliberate steps drawing near. Frantically, Olivia races back towards the door she entered, only to discover with horror that it is locked. The creature is nearly upon her. Her heart races as she rattles the doorknob, praying for it to open. Glancing over her shoulder, she is surprised to find nothing there. The flickering lights and leaking pipes are gone, and the oppressive atmosphere has lifted. The creature is nowhere to be seen. She tries the door again, and this time it opens with no problem. Olivia sits in the locker room before tryouts, reflecting on everything that just happened. Suddenly, a cheerleader excitedly approaches her, showing videos of the most intense roller coaster in the park, which only makes Olivia feel more nervous. At the tryouts, Olivia is immediately thrust into a routine. Unprepared but capable, she quickly picks up the choreography and manages to follow along. As she's thrown into the air, Olivia sees a vision of the creature waiting for her as she descends. In a panic, she screams, losing her balance and falling directly onto the mat. Returning to the library for more research, Graham congratulates Olivia on being invited to a cheerleader's birthday party. Olivia tells him that she might not attend because the rides are too scary. Flabbergasted, Graham warns her that if she does not go, the cheerleading group might decide not to let her join the squad.
Ride the dragon.
Back at home, Olivia's mother informs her that she will be working that night and has hired a nanny to look over Olivia and her brother.
Butterscotch?
Later that night, while chatting with the babysitter, Olivia learns that she used to care for their mother when she was younger.
Oh, yes. Nervous little thing.
The babysitter recalls how frightened their mother used to be, believing the house was haunted, claiming to hear strange music at odd hours, and seeing things lurking in the dark. Olivia confronts her mother about the creature, asking what it is.
What is it?
Her mother calls it the nervous monster, explaining that it only appears when you're feeling anxious about something. She admits that she still sees them from time to time, but they've come to an understanding, and she's learned to live with it. Emboldened by this revelation, Olivia decides to face this creature once and for all, knowing that she has nothing to fear. Lying in bed, she anxiously awaits for it to appear. However, when the music begins to play, the creature is nowhere to be seen. Following the sound, she is led to her brother's bedroom, where she finds the tall, pale man looming over his bed. Rushing to protect her brother, she screams for it to stop.
I said stop!
Monster recoils, now forced to obey her commands. With hesitation, Olivia approaches and removes its mask. As its disguise is lifted, she finds comfort in seeing its true face. The cheerleaders pick Olivia up for the party and drive to the roller coaster park.
Have a great time. I will.
Hopping into the ride, she settles in, still feeling a bit nervous. As she takes a deep breath, she feels a familiar presence sitting next to her.
Sorry, that seat's taken.
She commands the creature to leave, then turns her attention to her friends, enjoying the ride without fear. This is an amazing design, combining elements of Slender Man and Ghostface into something truly unsettling, yet not overtly aggressive. It strikes the ideal balance between eerie and approachable, perfect for children's horror. The depiction of the protagonist having a panic attack adds a mature and realistic layer to the story, grounding the horror in real emotional stakes. Unfortunately, as the episode progresses, her fearful moments feel less severe, diminishing the impact and authenticity of her mental state. By the end, her struggles are completely overshadowed by the monster itself, which takes center stage. The moment where the teen confides in her mother about her fears and the challenges she's been dealing with is incredibly important and carries a strong message about the value of seeking help. However, this message is sadly undercut by the parents' dismissive response, essentially saying, "Everybody gets scared, get over it." There's no mention of therapy or any kind of support system to help the teen through her struggles. This oversight undermines the episode's potential to deliver a meaningful and supportive message on mental health. Lily, a nerdy high school student, shuffles around her bedroom, trying to take a nice photo of herself for social media. Just as she's about to post it, she hesitates, scrolling through the incredible photos of other girls from her school. Her confidence fades, and she ultimately decides against sharing her picture. To regain her self-confidence, Lily trains with her teammates at school for the high school quiz bowl.
Regular decagon is?
144 degrees.
Correct.
She answers every question with ease, proving herself to be the quickest in the group. Glowing after a great practice session, Cameron, Lily's best friend, confidently believes they have a strong chance of winning the finals this weekend. As they chat, Lily notices the popular girls from her app walking down the hall, flirting with the boy she has a crush on. Feeling inadequate, Lily turns to Cameron and confesses her wishes to be seen as pretty instead of just smart.
Nerdy girls rule the world.
In art class, a new substitute teacher enters the room, her beauty and charisma instantly captivating the students. When Lily asks what they'll be studying, the teacher explains that they'll be taking a hands-on approach, encouraging everyone to take action as she hands out brushes. Intrigued by her initiative, she smiles warmly at Lily, showing a particular fondness for her. Between classes, Lily is stopped in the middle of the hallway when Cameron excitedly informs her that her crush is approaching.
Hey, tutor girl.
Hoping he'll invite her to his party, Lily's excitement fades as she realizes he's only interested in her as his tutor and is asking for more lessons.
I would be happy to.
Crushed and dejected, Lily reaches her lowest point and is comforted by the new substitute teacher. Wanting to help, the teacher offers Lily a way to become beautiful quickly.
Can you keep a secret?
Handing her access to an exclusive and secret app.
Give it a try.
At home, after installing the app, Lily uses it to edit a photo, giving herself the nose she always wished for. As the photo finishes rendering, she glances into the mirror and notices something shocking. Her face has changed, with her features perfectly matching her altered appearance from the app. In the morning, Lily sneaks out of the house without letting her parents notice the changes she's made. At school, she walks proudly, in love with her new look. Her friend, both excited and confused by the makeover, notices that Lily is acting strangely,
Finally caved and let me get a nose job.
becoming hyper-focused on her appearance and struggling to answer basic trivia questions. Concerned, Lily discreetly opens her phone to check the app. It warns users that memory lapse and personality changes may occur. Fascinated by Lily's stunning glow-up, the popular girls approach her, eager to share makeup tips.
I don't have a secret.
Cameron, preoccupied with Quizbo training, reminds Lily that they can't stay or they'll be late, ecstatic about the attention. Lily asks Cameron to skip quiz training for the day, wanting to hang out with the popular girls instead. Hesitantly, Cameron agrees, wanting to be supportive but feeling abandoned by her friend. As the days go by, Lily grows closer to the popular girls, prioritizing them over her best friend Cameron, and becoming increasingly absent from Quizbo training. While chatting with her new friends, they start talking about people they're interested in. When Lily mentions her crush, she is told that one of the girls is currently involved with him and advises her to stay away.
Him and me, we're kind of...
Consumed by jealousy, Lily decides to use the app once more, hoping to make herself irresistible to her crush. As she sneaks towards the door, her parents notice her revealing outfit. Shocked, they ask her to turn around so they can see it fully. When they notice her altered appearance, concern washes over them, as they don't understand what has happened to their daughter.
It's just a makeover.
Enraged by their judgment, Lily storms off to school, eager to show off her new and improved look. Arriving late to the Quizbo tournament, Cameron barely recognizes Lily, as her appearance now bears little resemblance to her natural features. As the quiz begins, Lily quickly jumps in, offering answers for her team, but due to her memory loss, she is unable to answer any of them correctly. After completely bombing in the tournament, Cameron pulls her aside, expressing concern over her shallow attitude and sudden lack of commitment.
What is wrong with you, Lily?
Lily becomes defensive, accusing Cameron of being jealous of her and deciding to end their friendship.
You're so basic.
Still angry about the fight, Lily snaps at her coach, assuming he's there to lecture her like everyone else. Frustrated by her nasty attitude, he kicks her off the team, leaving Lily stunned. As she stands there, processing everything, the substitute teacher emerges from the shadows, assuring Lily that everyone is just jealous and encouraging her not to let them stop her from getting what she wants. Just then, her crush approaches, inviting her to his party. Lily smiles at him, and the teacher smiles at her. Later that night, Lily arrives at the party, chatting and flirting with everyone in an attempt to grab her crush's attention. When he finally approaches her, they spend most of the evening together, showing mutual interest in each other. Opening up about his struggles, he shares how his parents' divorce has been affecting him and his little brother.
Hectic since my parents split up.
However, too preoccupied with her own appearance, Lily fails to pay attention and is unable to engage in a serious conversation. Realizing how shallow she truly is, he excuses himself and returns to his friend group, leaving Lily behind. Desperate to win him back, Lily decides to use the app to its fullest potential, completely transforming her appearance. When she returns to the party, all eyes are on her, but instead of admiration, she is met with stares of fear and concern. Rushing to a mirror, she discovers her face has become bloated and grotesquely disfigured. Because the act prevents her from undoing any changes, Lily seeks out her substitute teacher, convinced she will know what to do. Upon arriving at her house, Lily is stunned to see a mansion filled with expensive artwork. While exploring the house, she discovers an unusual room, with its walls lined with several ordinary-looking mirrors. As Lily peers into them, ghostly images of people trapped behind the frame scream back at her in agony. The teacher, annoyed by the intrusion, explains that each mirror contains the essence of teenage students who, like Lily, once felt insecure. In exchange for receiving the gift of beauty, they unknowingly surrender their souls. Stunned by the revelation, Lily searches for her own mirror. When she sees her former self trapped inside, rage floods her, and she smashes the mirror with her fists, shattering her reflection. With each blow, the teacher screams in agony. Realizing what she must do, Lily destroys all the mirrors, causing the teacher to age rapidly. As the last soul is freed, the teacher's body disintegrates completely. Standing over the ashes, Lily sees that the spell has been broken and her appearance has returned to normal. The next day, Lily attends the quiz bowl as an audience member to cheer for Cameron. After the event, Lily approaches her former best friend, congratulating her for leading the team to victory.
Carmen, can you just look at me?
Uninterested, Cameron dismisses Lily, still hurt by everything that was said.
You hurt me.
As she turns to walk away, however, she has a change of heart, accepting Lily's apology, but only once she explains what has happened to her. Watching a teen desperately trying to mold herself into her idea of what a popular girl should look, sound, and act like is deeply unsettling, especially when juxtaposed with the actual popular girls. Her actions become provocative, shallow, and mean-spirited, while the popular girls themselves do not act this way at all. This contrast adds a layer of complexity and depth to the story that sets it apart from the others in the series. Watching this young girl completely destroy her appearance, personality, and sense of self is devastating. But I believe they could have focused more on a teacher-student dynamic, showing the dangers of a mentor figure abusing their influence for self-gain. This story comes close to becoming something special. However, it doesn't do enough to distinguish itself. As a tale of beauty at all costs, it's very predictable, but also very competent. Ella, a quiet and moody teenager, rides to school with her mom, avoiding any conversation. As they pull up to the school, her mom spots Zoe, Ella's best friend, and starts to wave. But Ella quickly stops her, explaining that she and Zoe are no longer friends. Clearly upset by the situation, Ella's mom tries to comfort her, but Ella exits the car abruptly, refusing to discuss it. In the classroom, as the teacher lectures about the upcoming field trip, Ella seems lost in thought, staring intently at Zoe with an expression of longing for her former best friend. Beside her, a classmate strikes up a conversation, excitedly talking about the trip to the historical theater and sharing some personal interests. Unsure how to react, Ella freezes, struggling to find the right words. Just as she's about to respond, the teacher interrupts, demanding the class's full attention. At the theater, The class is guided through the building, with the tour guide pointing out preserved architectural features and sharing its rich history.
You'll see a tribute to their memories.
When they reach the main hall, the group stops in front of the memorial, where the guide recounts the story of a catastrophic fire that occurred decades ago, just as the show was about to begin, tragically claiming the lives of the actors. As the guide speaks, Ella can't help but to glance at Zoe and her new best friend, making them both visibly uncomfortable.
It's rude to stare.
I wasn't staring.
Walking onto the stage, the guide shares a rumor with the students, telling them of the strange sights and sounds reported at night. It is said that the actors who perished in the fire are now trapped in the theater, endlessly rehearsing the play they never got to perform. Presenting them with a copy of the play, the guide invites a few students to act out the scene on stage.
The young lady down front, and...
Ella is amongst those chosen, but feeling overwhelmed by the request, runs off, exiting the auditorium and searching for a quiet spot to wait out the rest of the trip. Wandering through the theater, Ella discovers a comfortable sofa where she sits down and starts playing on her phone, eventually dozing off. Hours later, she wakes up to find an empty and locked theater. Echoing in the distance, faint and distorted voices can be heard. Unsure of what to do, she follows them, venturing deeper into the theater. Leading Ella into the changing room, she is stunned to discover the truth. Ghostly apparitions rehearsing their lines, exactly as the rumor had described.
No, please, please, please do not turn me into a ghost, please.
When they spot Ella, startled and on the ground, they erupt in excitement, thinking she might join them for a performance, promising to help her escape if she could play their missing role. On stage, as the ghosts perform their parts, Ella delivers her lines with poor timing and lifeless energy. Unimpressed with her performance, Vivian decides to take control, fully possessing Ella's body.
You want to project like so.
She shows Ella how a true performer should act, forcing a more powerful voice from her and striking bold and exaggerated poses.
Don't fight it, dear.
As Vivian releases her hold on Ella's body, a strange trembling shakes the auditorium. From the sky, a massive ghostly skull materializes, attacking everyone on stage. In a panic, they scramble to hide behind the props, waiting for the creature to dissipate. Fearing for Ella's safety, the ghosts make it their top priority to get her out of the locked theater before it's too late. Spotting the building's blueprint behind a glass case, they theorize that it might reveal a way out. As Ella notices an axe mounted on the wall, the ghosts urge her to smash the case open. Reluctant at first, Ella takes the axe in her hand, knowing it's the only option. With a large swing, she shatters the glass, feeling a surge of power and unexpected joy at the strength of her action. With several possible exits marked on the blueprint, they split into groups to search for an accessible fire escape. As Ella explores the building with Raymond, he opens up about the tragic incident, the day they all died. He reveals that their group of 4 once had a 5th member, but on the eve of their first performance, Vivian had kicked her out. Before they could find a replacement, the theater was consumed by flames, leaving them an incomplete group for over 80 years. He regrets not saying goodbye to Dolores, the 5th member. She was his best friend, and now he feels lost without her. Ella confides in Raymond about Zoe, her former best friend, telling him about their love for music how they used to write silly songs together. But one day, everything changed. Zoe lost interest in music, and the two began to drift apart. While Zoe moved on and made new friends, Ella found herself feeling stuck, unable to move forward. Intrigued by her music, Raymond asked Ella to share one of her songs.
Can I hear one of your songs?
Shy at first, she begins whispering the melody. But as the joy of music returns to her, her voice grows stronger and more confident.
I will cherish every moment.
Moved by her heartfelt performance, Raymond is suddenly overwhelmed with guilt, confessing to know the location of a spare key all along, but choosing to keep it a secret in an attempt to spend more time with her. With the key in hand, Ella and the ghost reunite at the main hall to unlock the front door.
Promise you'll come back and visit.
Before leaving, Ella expresses her gratitude to the ghosts, admitting they inspired her to believe in herself again and have confidence in who she truly is.
Stop trying to upstage her, you ham.
Before their goodbyes are completed, the room begins to tremble once more. Fearing the creature's return, the ghosts rush back to the stage while Ella hurries to unlock the door. Before leaving, Ella takes one last look at the memorial wall, admiring the photos of all the friends she made that night. To her surprise, she notices 5 frames hanging on the wall, with the 5th featuring Dolores. With this revelation, Ella returns to the auditorium to find the skull creature attacking the ghost, holding them suspended in midair. She urgently explains that the creature isn't a monster, it's Dolores. The ghosts realize they must confront their unresolved issues and make peace with her. At first, Vivian refused to apologize, believing she did nothing wrong, but eventually, admitting her cruelty towards Dolores. She had become jealous of her talent, youth, and beauty, and couldn't handle being outstaged. Understanding Dolores' pain, Ella pleads with her to forgive them, to release her anger, and to move forward. Moved by Ella's words and the ghost's confessions, the skull figure begins to dissolve, revealing Dolores in her human form once again. With apologies exchanged, the ghosts reunite, finally performing the play they had long been unable to complete. As the sole audience member in the grand auditorium, Ella watches their performance intently. As the final curtains fall, the cast take a bow and begin to ascend. No longer bound to this place, they embrace their freedom and move on to the great beyond. This episode is a wonderful showcase of the young actress's talents. It gives her the opportunity to sing, emote, and embody a different character through ghost possession. Watching her tackle so much within one episode was fairly enjoyable. However, the ghosts themselves are not particularly impressive. Most of them simply walk around, talking with the protagonist, or rehearse the play. The only standout is the skull monster, who truly adds some excitement by wreaking havoc on the theater. The school scenes in the episode feel disconnected from the storyline. Removing them entirely would have made the theater setting feel more special, allowing the story to focus on its strongest elements. Unfortunately, this episode has a lot of walking and talking, with most of the story being told instead of shown. The people from Larkinville go about their day peacefully until Trevor Larkin, a teenage boy, begins terrorizing the residents. He stomps on the gardener's flowers, tosses the paint can from the painter's supplies, and even antagonizes a leashed dog, spreading chaos wherever he goes. As Trevor makes his way to school, students and teachers cower at his sight, scattering out of his path. As he enters, a young boy rushes to meet him, carrying his bag and jacket while showering him with compliments. Together, they approach a group of students, heads bowed, nervously handing Trevor their completed assignments. When Trevor notices one of them glancing at his scar, he shoves the student into the lockers and walks away, laughing. As the day progresses, Trevor relentlessly harasses the other students, subjecting them to verbal and physical abuse. During gym class, he takes it a step further, hurling balls at his classmates with excessive force, eventually causing one of the boys to suffer a broken nose.
That maniac bloodied my son's nose and I want him expelled.
The principal, however, explains the harsh reality. Trevor's father, Mr. Larkin, is the primary benefactor of the school, employs most of the town's residents, and owns the local apartment complexes. With his vindictive reputation and strong influence over the town, the principal advises her to let it go, implying that doing nothing is the safest course of action. Back in the classroom, Trevor is boasting to the others about how powerful his father is, when he's interrupted by a knock at the door. His grin widens with delight as he sees Evan Berger.
Here, I'm new.
A nerdy pale boy with freckled skin, glasses, and a prosthetic leg. As a new student, he was unaware of Trevor, regrettably taking his seat right in front of him. Throughout the rest of the lesson, Trevor couldn't stop coming up with cruel and creative insults to torment Evan. Between classes, Evan is pulled aside by other students who explain the unwritten rules of survival in Larkinville. They warn him to stay clear of Trevor Larkin and, if confronted, to never fight back. In the cafeteria, Trevor approaches Evan, demanding he empty his backpack. Confused, Evan stands up and politely refuses. The rest of the room quickly backs away, fearing what might happen next. Infuriated, Trevor threatens Evan, expecting him to fall in line. To his surprise, Evan calmly advises against it, insinuating a threat of his own. Flabbergasted by Evan's audacity, Trevor decides to give him a black eye. Later that day, Evan and his grandmother arrives at Trevor's house to confront him about the black eye, demanding that he apologizes to her grandson.
Do you know who my dad is?
Annoyed, Trevor dismisses their request, and just as he tries to slam the door shut, the grandmother begins speaking an incantation in a foreign language, causing the sky over Larkinville to darken. Unsettled by the sudden change, Trevor steps back into the house, unsure of what just transpired. At dinner, Trevor gazes at his father with pride as he recounts firing and evicting the family who complained about her son's gym class injury, outraged that they would accuse Trevor of intentionally harming anyone. His girlfriend, visibly upset by the story, tries to play it off, not wanting to stir things up. She cautiously suggests that Trevor could try to be less aggressive. Both Trevor and his father turn to her, firmly explaining that there's no room for weakness. As the day comes to a close, Trevor can't shake the unsettling feeling left by Evan's grandmother, finding it difficult to sleep. The next morning, as Trevor approaches the mirror, he notices something shocking. His body has transformed from its massive form to a smaller version of its younger self. Fearing how his family would react, he sneaks out to find Evan and his grandmother. As Trevor steps on the gardener's flowers, she recognizes his scar and stops him. Instead of fearing him, she becomes possessed with unwielding rage, screaming at him about all the terrible things he's done to her. As he attempts to escape, he encounters others he's wronged, who join in on his pursuit, eager to finally exact their revenge. Trevor rushes into the school, searching for Evan.
It's Trevor Larkin.
but is quickly surrounded by all the students he's wronged. He begs for help, but even the teachers show him no sympathy. Seeing the commotion, Evan steps forward and tells everyone to stop,
If we do this, then we're just as bad as he is.
offering Trevor a hand as a peace offering. Back at Evan's house, Trevor expresses regret for his actions, hoping his apology will reverse the change. Kneeling before them, he begs for their help. The grandmother, though reluctant, agrees. After reciting another incantation, she tells him that, by morning, everything will be as it should. When Trevor awoke, he rushed to the mirror, grinning with delight at the sight of his large, menacing body. However, his joy quickly soured into anger, promising to take his revenge on Evan. As Trevor left his house that morning, he failed to notice that things were not as they once were. Stepping on the gardener's flowers, as he did every morning, he was shocked to see something unbelievable. His father on his knees, tending to the park's greenery. Glancing at the town sign, he saw that what was once Larkinville has now become Burgerville. His father tosses him a pair of gloves, signaling it was time to go back to work. This is the only episode featuring narration, and it absolutely enhances the experience, giving it a fairy tale quality that perfectly complements its heightened reality. I always enjoy following the story of a morally corrupt character, and this young actor delivers a performance that is both despicable and charismatic. He manages to make us root for and against him, which adds a fascinating layer to the story. This might be the most simple and straightforward tale in the series, and that works entirely in its favor. The pacing is deliberate, and the episode takes its time, exploring the many ways this teen is rotten, making the final twist, when everybody turns on him, feel deeply satisfying. My only critique is the decision to swap out the main actor for a portion of the story. While it was enjoyable to see a younger version of him, the shift undermines the impact of his comeuppance. It would have been far more effective to see the same actor face the consequences of his actions. Sam and his best friend Mason have just purchased an incredibly rare and valuable comic book. As they leave the shop, they're confronted by their school bully, who decides to mess with them by ripping the comic book out of its protective case and tossing it into a puddle.
Now it's pavement.
Ruining it completely. On their way home, Mason tries to comfort Sam, knowing the comic holds deep emotional significance for him. It was his late dad's favorite. Sam, however, changes the subject, not wanting to talk about him. Mason apologizes, and they continue, walking in silence. Back at home, Sam is confronted by his mother for missing dinner. She explains the importance of reestablishing a routine. Frustrated, Sam expresses that he doesn't want to engage as a family now that his father's gone. The argument escalates as she feels neglected, believing he values his comic books more than her. Hiding in his treehouse, Sam reads his father's old comic books, reminiscing about the collection they had built together. Outside, a storm begins to brew. Strong winds shake the structure, and suddenly, the treehouse is dislodged, crashing to the ground, with Sam still inside. When Sam wakes up, he finds himself in a bedroom that isn't his, in a house that isn't his, surrounded by pictures of moments that never happened.
I'm in a picture with Tommy Munson?
Confused, Sam begins to explore the house. In the kitchen, he sees a woman who greets him warmly, but this isn't Sam's mother. A man enters the room relieved to see Sam feeling better. But this isn't Sam's father. They explain that he might be feeling a bit disoriented, but reassure him not to worry. He just suffered a concussion while playing soccer. Sam, thinking this must be some kind of joke, rushes back to his own home. As he enters, he finds his mother, who doesn't recognize him. Confused, he tries to explain that his treehouse crashed, but when he looks outside, there is no sign that it was ever there. Behind him, he hears a familiar voice. Sam turns around in disbelief to see his father, alive and well, standing in the middle of the living room. Without hesitation, Sam hugs him, but his parents exchange a puzzled look.
Buddy, if you're lost, we can call your parents.
Concerned for his well-being, they offer to call the police, thinking he's lost and mentally unwell. Scared and overwhelmed, Sam leaves the house and begins wandering aimlessly through the neighborhood. A strange feeling washes over him, and suddenly he has a vision of a desolate world that mirrors his own. Overwhelmed by the situation, Sam runs to his best friend's house, seeking help. When Mason answers the door, he greets Sam with a hostile tone. As Sam tries to explain all the strange events, Mason doubts him, thinking it's just a prank from his bully. Just as Mason begins to close the door, Sam reveals intimate details about Mason's life, trying to prove that, in his reality, they are best friends. Intrigued, Mason pulls Sam inside, determined to figure out what's going on. In his bedroom, the boys begin theorizing about what's happening, concluding that Sam must have slipped into an alternate universe after the Treehouse incident, with the strange visuals being the result of this reality rejecting him. Fearing the consequences if Sam stays in this universe, Mason suggests they recreate the Treehouse incident, hoping it will pull him back home. However, with no treehouse in this world, Sam would have to convince his parents, who in this reality are not his parents, to build one in their backyard. The boys arrive at Sam's father's workplace, trying to come up with a plan. Noticing them spying, he decides to confront the boys, threatening to call the police if Sam continues to harass him. In a desperate attempt, Sam tries to convince him of his story the same way he did Mason, revealing intimate secrets they once shared.
You grew up in Grand Rapids. Your first dog was a Dalmatian named Freckles?
Rattled and unsure, Sam's father invites him to come over to his house in the morning so they can talk more about the situation. Feeling confident, Sam returns to the house that isn't his to rest for the day. As he enters, another vision strikes, reminding him that he won't be safe until the treehouse is built. At dinner, his parents, who aren't his real parents, express concern over his strange behavior, urging him to stay home the next day. Sam tries his best to act normal, convincing them that he's fine, but with no memories of the family's life, he struggles to ease their worries. In the morning, Sam sneaks out of the house that isn't his to meet up with his father. They stand in the backyard, planning the best way to build the treehouse, when Sam's mother comes in and asks to speak with his father privately. She questions his decision to humor the delusion of this young boy. He tells her that he's unsure if the boy is telling the truth, but he sees no harm in building a treehouse with him.
We're helping a lonely kid feel better.
She reluctantly agrees, and for the next few days, Sam is able to enjoy his time with his family, united once more. As they finish building the treehouse, Sam feels another vision coming. Overwhelmed by its intensity, he collapses and faints. Worried, his parents rush to his side, asking if he's okay. Sam, barely able to speak, tells them that his time is running out. With another storm rolling in, they place the finishing touches on the treehouse, carefully recreating details including all the comics inside. Amid the heavy rain, Mason comes to say his goodbyes, followed by Sam's mother, who, though still skeptical, has started to believe in his story. When his father arrives, Sam begins to waver, not wanting to return to a world without him.
Don't leave.
Staying by his side as the thunderstorm intensifies outside, his father asks Sam to be strong, to live his life fully, and to always be there for his mother. With a flash of thunder, Sam wakes up in a hospital bed, his arm in a cast, and his mother sitting by his side. He tells her about his experience in the other world, how he had the chance to see his father again, and how happy he is to be back. Returning home, Sam stands before the wreckage of his fallen treehouse, reflecting on everything that has happened. As his mother steps outside to join him, he turns to her and asks if she would like to rebuild it with him. This episode is deeply emotional, dealing with the loss of a family member and the grief it causes. However, the science fiction aspect leaves a lot to be desired. The writing seems to conflate the concept of alternate realities and time travel, leading to a muddled premise. Plot points such as building the treehouse, inspiring his parents to have children, and his father's request not to know how he dies only makes sense if the story was about traveling to the past. But since this is meant to be an alternative universe, the rules of what is different and what remains the same are never clearly defined. This lack of clarity makes the protagonist's reunion with his father feel strange and unresolved. In this universe, he already has a family that must be worried sick about his absence. On that note, the episode never addresses whether he swapped places with his alternative self in this world or whether he disappeared entirely in his original universe. These unanswered questions might be unimportant to the emotional core of the story, but their absence leaves me distracted and wishing the narrative had addressed them a bit more specifically. Just Beyond is a fascinating oddity in children's horror. Created by the master of the genre, R.L. Stine, it premiered during Halloween month on Disney's new streaming service, only to have a short-lived stay. With no physical release and its abrupt removal from Disney+, the show has now become a piece of lost media. These circumstances alone should make Just Beyond a legend in its own right. However, for the year it remained on the streaming service, Just Beyond received minimal coverage and largely mixed reviews. The general consensus was that its story leans too heavily on teaching a lesson, with heavy-handed and forced messaging that completely overshadowed the supernatural elements. By feeling more like lectures than engaging narratives, Just Beyond ended up alienating the very audience it aimed to connect with. With only 8 episodes in its entirety, it's disappointing that most of the stories suffer from thematical overlap. The protagonists face similar emotional struggles and growth, resulting in their journeys feeling generic rather than personal. While each tale attempts to explore different horror genres, they ultimately serve as allegories for teenage struggles, making for forgettable stories. Initially, I had planned to rank these episodes from worst to best. However, after rewatching them several times, I've come to believe that Episode 7, Standing Up For Yourself, exists in a completely different league than the rest. While the other episodes aren't outright bad, they are largely unremarkable and blur together in a forgettable haze of mediocrity. If you have any interest in watching the show, I strongly recommend you seeking this one out. The narration and heightened reality of this episode feels like a perfect match for the series as a whole. Where its focus on morality tales would have felt more at home. Had this episode served as a blueprint for the rest of the series instead of being an outlier, I truly believe that Just Beyond could have become a Halloween must-watch. As it stands, however, it remains forgotten and delisted by Disney.